Okay, here we go. Week 3 of Rad. And we've had a lot of fun talking through these topics. And so I get the pleasure of talking third week. And this is something that every single person in this room struggles with. What I'm going to be talking about today is something that nobody in this room could say, hey, that is not an issue to me. This hasn't been an issue to me. What we'll be discussing is something that you can work through. And like the series has been, rad, right? Rad means cool, hip, right? Talking about the 90s, talking about someone who stands out because they're like really awesome. But also we talked about radical also can mean extreme or countercultural. And Jesus at his time was very radical. He was very almost like crazy insane at the moment in time where he lived. And so I believe that God is calling us to be radical in our own context. And so I want to talk about something really quick because I know most people in this room were not born in the 90s. I would say that most people were probably born in the 2000s. What year were you born? 2010. You hear that? That's insane. What about you, Josh? 2004. Man, you're like, I was graduating high school 2006. So you were like a little baby at the time. Like wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a nice, comfortable home. Okay, so here's the thing. Most people in this room, you don't know much about the 90s. So I'm going to say a phrase or something, a clue, and I want you to guess what I'm talking about, who I'm talking about, whatever, okay? My wife's in the room today, so she'll probably know some of these as well. So you have some people who can give you some clues, okay? So I'm going to act like a fool, and then you guys have to guess what I'm talking about. Okay. Ain't no crazy, but it ain't no lie, baby, bye, bye, bye. Who is that? In Sync, okay? All right. Did I sound nasally enough? Ain't no crazy, but it... Was that good enough, Amanda? Pass your test? Everyone, okay. Let me try another one. Ooh, this one's a tough one. Oh, ladies, leave your man at home. Na 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 na. Pockets full of room. And all your fellas, na 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 na. Because it's 11. Destiny's. How do you know so much about the 90s? Who said Destiny's Child back there? Okay, there we go, Tanya. That's a running song for you, isn't it? I could see you running to that. Okay. I need some feedback, all right? Because I feel like a fool. Okay, this is a TV show where they would dump a bunch of like green ooze on you. Nickelodeon. Okay, is that still on? Yes, it is. Wow, that is old. Okay, I don't know how to do that one. Oh, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh,
Who?
no, wait,
Nirvana? Okay. No, 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 no. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog. What system was that on? No, what video game system was it on? Sonic. Does anyone know? Yes. Sega. Okay, so you guys are a lot smarter than I thought. I don't know how to. Okay, this one is. I don't know how to do that one. Okay. Do 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 do. It's Rugrats. Who was that? See? Okay. Was that Asia? All right. Thank you, D. I appreciate that. Okay. There's a point to all this because when I grew up, I talked about Full House last week, and another show that I loved that I would say I was more forced to watch it than I learned to love it, was a TV show called Family Matters. Does anyone know Family Matters? Okay? Who was the main character on Family Matters? Urkel, right? What was his 4-worded phrase that he said very often?
Did I do that?
Okay, can you say that one more time really loud? 1, 2, 3.
Did I do that?
Okay, that was terrifying. Okay. But it was, did I do that? Wait, can you say it one more time?
Did I do
Oh, man, I'm going to have nightmares. Okay, so here's the deal. So in the show, there's this guy, Urkel, and he's crazy intelligent, he's crazy smart, but he also messes things up all the time, just like Paul, okay? So he is very much like Paul. And he has this phrase, when he screws up, he says,
Did I do that?
okay. I'm glad Paul and my wife are laughing. Okay, so that's the phrase. And so there's a scene where he's in this battle with this bully that has bullied him through all the show. And there's a moment where he finally talks back to him. He lashes out and the crowd goes crazy because he puts that bully in his place, right? And everyone loves to see a bully put in their place. Everyone loves to see when someone who's been pushed down challenges back and then that person is like thrown off and everyone's thrown off. We love those things because we've all been in a place where we've been bullied, where we've been pushed over, where we've been challenged. And I think about this story and what we talked about. We've all been in places where we've been insulted, where someone has tore us down, where someone has belittled us. It's almost like people use words as their weapons. And they gossip, they start rumors, they criticize, they mock. All this. And so I want to ask you 3 questions to start. I really want us to think through these. Because remember what I said, this is something we all struggle with. The first question, have you gotten angry because of something that someone said to you recently? Have you got angry because of something someone said to you recently? Second question, have you been hurt or embarrassed by someone's words? Has someone embarrassed you, hurt you, offended you recently? And third question, have you said anything in anger to hurt or embarrass someone else? You got to a place and you were compromised emotionally and you lashed out and you tried to hurt or embarrass someone else. You know, I think about this, and it's ironic because we all have struggled with this. At one point or another, we have struggled with our words. We've struggled in our own life. And I remember certain times in my life where people said things jokingly, and man, it stung. It stuck in my heart. I remember even in my teenage years, and I was crazy, I was out there, I was probably overly confident, but I still remember to this day things that people said, and it stuck in my heart, and eventually in some ways got to a point where I thought it was true. I thought it was real. I remember someone that I really looked up to, they said something to me, and I really thought that was true for years and years when they were just joking. And if we're real with ourselves, we know that people have said things to us where we believe to be true. One thing I hear a lot from students is, man, I'm so awkward, right? Man, I'm just so awkward. And I wonder, where did they get to the point where they believe that they are awkward, they're not social, they're different? Did someone say, hey, you're so weird? Hey, you're so different? Hey, you're so antisocial? Like, where did that take root in their life? Where they started to believe, hey, I'm just awkward. Or someone, they believe, hey, I don't have value in this area. Or I think about people who don't believe they're intelligent, or people that don't believe, that they have something to offer. And somewhere along the line, that didn't just come from inside their mind. People said things into their life, and those things took root, and eventually they started believing those things, right? I just made a joke about Paul, and it was somewhat strategic because I could say that about him, and he could take root. Oh, I always screw everything up, right? Paul actually has a phrase, right? What is it called? The Foster curse, right? So Paul Foster, and he actually opened up an amazing art studio, and I'm giving you actually, I'm not ashamed. It's an awesome plug. If you guys want to do something, Josh, if you want to take your girlfriend out for something for Christmas time, take her there to draw. And one thing about Paul is we always joke about the Foster curse, right? And becomes this joke. Oh, it's Foster curse. It's this, that, things go wrong. It's got to be that. And so we joke about it, but those things could take root in our heart, and we could not look at the positive things. We couldn't look at the good qualities, which I'll bless you for a second in the sense. He opened his own art studio, left a career of how many years? 24 years and opened his own art studio. Talk about a leap of faith, right? And so those are things that so often we focus on the negative that we forget to look at the good. We forget to look at the positives. And we can fall prey to this. Words have a lot of power. Your words, yes, I'm talking to you. Your words have so much power. Just like on the flip side, if you're getting torn down, people can build you up. And man, it feels good. It makes you happy. It makes you joyful. It encourages you to be better. It's the same with the negative. And so again, in the series about being radical, Jesus was radical with his words. The world said this, Jesus said this. And that's the same with us. I mean, so many of us, because we live in the world of negativity, of language, of gossip, of insults, we believe this is normal. When Jesus is like, no, that is not normal. This is what I desire of you. And because it is so different, we're like, how in the world do I do that? Like, it's not just, okay, here's this, how the world talks, and we're right here. It is like night and day different. Am I wrong? It's not even like there's a chasm so wide between the world's language, the world's talk, and what God desires and what Jesus shared in the Gospels. It is radical. So much so that if someone doesn't know I'm a pastor, I will know within one conversation if they have some form of relationship with Jesus. Am I the only one like that? Just the words people say, the language they use, the things they say about other people. It does not take me long to realize who people follow and what they're about. And so Jesus, he was so radical in what he has said about our words and what he taught us about how we're supposed to approach language. And so we've been talking to James. I love the book of James, so blunt, so real. Here's Jesus's half brother. And Jesus's half brother, he talked about a lot of things, but one of the things I love most about what he talked about was how we use our words. And I think about that. I wonder if Jesus and James, I wonder if they got in a fight. You know, I wonder if they had a verbal altercation. And here is James standing across from the Son of God, who's clever, who's smart, who's inspired by the Holy Spirit, and he's trying to go toe-to-toe with him. And we see examples of Jesus, how he just had the perfect responses. He had the perfect comebacks. Not just to belittle, but to challenge and speak truth. And so when Jesus, here he is, had all the cool comebacks, and then here's James, and so he had to live with him pretty much his whole life. And so he probably lost a couple debates with Jesus. He probably got in a place where Jesus just put him in his place. But James, in his word, he shares a couple things, and I'm going to put it up here, but I want you to turn to it. It's James chapter 3. Okay, James chapter 3, and we're going to be starting in verse 2. We're going to be reading a lot, and I'll be explaining it as we go. This is what he says about our words. Remember I said everyone struggles with this? If you think, this topic has nothing to do with me, you're a liar. Liars aren't supposed to be cool people. Okay, here we go. We all stumble in many ways. Bingo. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits into the mouth of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they're so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder, wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind, but no human can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who've been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. Whew. Remember when I talked about James not messing around? He puts us in our place here. He says things like a bit, right? A horse, a strong warrior horse. They didn't have tanks, right? They didn't have jeeps. They had horses, a powerful instrument of war. But yet it is controlled by a little bit that goes around the mouth. And then it talks about a rudder. You got these powerful warships, and yet there's this little itty bitty rudder that controls it. This little movement that controls the entire ship. Then you talk about an inferno, a forest fire, homes, destruction, death, you name it. And it starts with a tiny little spark. All these things, tiny, cannot be controlled. It even says that the tongue is from hell. It's like a fire. We got our body, we got our mind, we got our flesh. You think what would be most scary is the fist, right? Or a steel-toed boot, right? No, it's this. It's the tongue. The most deadly thing is the words we have. And yet, because we see the world and what's normal, this is just what life is, we accept that, or maybe we're just like, okay, we'll be right here because we're not as bad as that, and that is normal, and that's what everyone's doing, and yet we forget that God has a radical way on how we're supposed to use our words. So radical that side is like, what in the world? Like, man, you're so different than me. Our words, our actions, it's going to be night and day from the world. Enough that probably those people are going to feel a little awkward around us because we don't jump into those conversations. And people might say, well, they're going to think we're like judgmental. You know, we allow those things in our life if we want. We can allow to be a part of that. But in the end, God calls us not to be in the world. Right? He calls us, wait, I mixed that up. Even though we're going to be in the world, he says we don't need to be of the world. We're going to be around it, but it doesn't mean we just accept it and jump into it. We're called to stand out. And so whether it's the bit, the rudder, or the spark, all these small things control the giant result of a battleship, a horse, a fire. The words we say might seem small, but they have the potential to make a massive impact. Have you been there? Think with me for a second. Have you ever said something, or someone said something about you, and it was taken completely out of context? You guys ever had that? With a sister, brother, girlfriend, boyfriend, coach, teacher, pastor, you name it. Have you guys ever had that? Like maybe one sentence or one word, and they take that and they carry it to someone else, and then they take it and they carry it and they adjust it, and then by the time it gets to the individual, it is so wrong and so taken out of context. I've had that stuff happen to me so many times as a pastor. And someone takes something and they go and they spin it and they give it a swirly and they take it and bring and give it ice cream and then take it out on a date, and then by the time it's back to me, it is not even close. That's why it says we need to be so careful with the words that we have, because if they are not controlled, they will damage, they'll destroy, they'll frustrate. Jesus knew this. Remember when we said James often told stories and phrases that Jesus taught? I want to take a look at one time when Jesus said something that sounds familiar to what we're discussing today. It's actually a passage of scripture where Jesus is talking with religious leaders. And these religious leaders, they were the pastors of the day, and they were supposed to be the ones who were leading the nation of Israel. And Jesus put them in their place. And let's see what Jesus had to say to them about what it means with our words. So let's just throw this up here in Mark. He replied, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites. As it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have to let go of the commands of God that you're holding on to with human traditions. It goes on. Let's jump to the next verse in Mark. It says that he went on, what comes out of a person is what defiles them. For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. Sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person. So Jesus now just flipped everything. What he's saying is this world of people, the reason why they do these things is because it reveals what is here. You know, the biggest gossips I know are the people that hurt the most. You know, the people that are most harsh, the people who are most angry are the ones who are most angry at themselves. You know, the people who are most cynical or negative and down about their circumstance, about the world, are usually the ones that they themselves are most depressed. What it's saying is those things, those people, it's a window to what's really going on in here. What Jesus is saying is, hey, if you just try to work on the outside and try to cover up what's on the inside, it ain't gonna last. If you work on the heart, the overflow of your life will be radically different. It'll be radically changed from the life of the world. You want to know the times when I'm most angry or gossip or upset? It's usually when my heart's not right. It's usually when I'm not right with God. It's usually when I'm not in a good spot in general. And the result is bleh. Who knows? It's not right. And if people are in the crossfire, it can get pretty crazy. You know, projectile vomiting action of anger or confusion. You name it. And Jesus is saying here that we need to check our heart. We get the heart right, this will be okay. I love this. Jesus' words might sound harsh. You hypocrites. Aren't we supposed to be nice with our words? Yeah, well, he was speaking truth. He isn't being cruel. He is calling them out because the actions that they're doing is leading people astray. That's not wrong. He was speaking truth. He wasn't just trying to hurt them. He was trying to call them out. And they weren't listening in smaller settings or big settings or you name it, medium-sized settings. And so he just spoke truth in their life because they didn't get it. Jesus' words, they might sound cruel, but they were truthful. But God doesn't want our hypocritical words. No matter how many words we use to pray or worship, God isn't impressed with the holy things we say when we're also using words that hurt others. He's not impressed when we're singing that God is the king of my heart, but then we walk out the door and our lifestyles are night and day different from what we just did in this room. God doesn't want our hypocritical words because our words reflect our hearts. Jesus reminds us to look at what's in our heart because what's in our heart determines what comes out of our mouth. If we're filled with greed and pride and jealousy, it's not just our words we need to address, it's our heart. And both Jesus and James, they knew this to be true. I came up with this phrase. I want us to put it up here, kind of like the main point. The words we say matter because they're a reflection of who we really are. They are. So we need to watch what we say and watch what's in our heart. Our words are a reflection of who we are. The reflection of what's really going on the inside. Can you imagine how your family, your friends, your school, or the world could be different if we decided not to use our words like weapons? If we could find a new way to use our words, this would change our world in a radical way. So do you want to see a radical change? Do you want to see your words change in a radical way? Because radical people watch their words. Radical people, they are aware of what they say, and they're aware of how it affects the people around them. I wish Justin was in here today because, there he is. I need you to come on stage really quick, okay? Run. Dead out sprint, okay? Run. Justin. Okay, this is what I need, okay? I'm going to hold your hand. I want you to show the world your tattoo, okay? It's actually point of my sermon, okay? So and your lower back tattoo. Can we show them that too?
Maybe when they're older.
Okay, that's terrifying. Okay. Okay. Words are like tattoos, okay? This is your most recent tattoo, right?
Yes.
And you got a pretty good deal on it. Tell me the meaning of it.
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. So you like pirates, you like cool things, you like tattoos, right? I have no tattoos because, one, I'm cheap, and two, I don't know what I would do. But my wife has a couple tattoos. She has a little cross, right? And then you have the wedding ring one. That's pretty cool. Because we're married, okay? And then she has one on her foot that says beautiful. What's the scripture reference to it? Yeah, okay, Romans, good. Okay, but here's the thing. Once, Romans. Yes, okay. Happy birthday to me. Okay. She got me a Starbucks this morning. Okay, so we have a tattoo. Once you get a tattoo, it won't go away. It might fade a little, but it's never fully going to go away unless you pay a lot of money to get it removed. It might get more wrinkly with age. It might get a little stretched out once you get super buff, but it's not going to go away. But like a tattoo, you cannot take back the words you say. It might fade, but it's never fully going to go away. So I want to say that analogy because, yes, God calls us, if we screw up, to apologize, to go to our brother and sister and say, hey, I've screwed up. But why don't we work on the front end of this and just be wise before we say it? Because once those words come out, it is very difficult to get them back, aka impossible. People will forgive us, we'll work through it, but it's still going to be a remnant there. And we, over time, will forgive, but people start, if that becomes a pattern in your life where you're just going to shotgun throw stuff out, people are going to see that, and they're going to be like, okay, I need to be careful around this person because this is their personality. And so this is what I want us to do, okay, with this cool tattoo. You can go down. I want to give us some practical steps on how to be better with our words. Okay, what we can do. And I want us to almost like pull out binoculars. I got my binoculars if I go to like a football game and I'm up in the nosebleeds, or if I'm looking at my neighbor. Thank you for laughing, one person. Okay, I got my binoculars. People are hunting. Oh, I do have a neighbor here. That's awkward. Okay, I got another neighbor. And so I want us to focus. When we when we use binoculars, it's to focus in closer on something. So with our words, I want us to put on our binoculars, and I want us to focus and look in and zoom in. And this is what I want us to see. One, I want us to wonder about our words, and I'm going to explain that. Whether you're speaking in person, online, in whatever context, I want you to think, are these words hurtful? Are they helpful? Are they true? Are they kind? I want us to ask those questions, wonder about it. If I say this, are they hurtful? Are they helpful? Are they true? And are they kind? Because that will be a natural filter for, should I say this? Second thing, spend extra time thinking before you speak. I'm preaching to the choir on this one. Before you send that text or post that comment, you need to think, is this a careless comment that there's no need for? Is there no point for this? Pause and think. Just pause and think before you say. So simple. Be still with those words. The whole statement, I just speak what's on my mind and it's who I am, you can't change it. That might be who you are, but it doesn't mean you accept it because it's not right. So spend extra time thinking before you speak. Third thing, forgive when words hurt. Forgive when words hurt. We can't forget, unhear, or unsay hurtful words, but we can forgive ourselves and we can forgive others when they hurt us. Forgive each other. God says, forgive as you've been forgiven. Just because it does hurt or it did hurt doesn't mean we shouldn't forgive. Forgive yourself if you've been the one who said it, and if you're the one who received it, forgive them. And finally, choose words that help. In that moment, build up. I talked about how when people say hurtful things, it tends to stick. Almost like a tattoo, it's just going to stick around. What if we flip that? We talked about the words that help. I can think back to things people told me when I was a middle schooler, when I was a high schooler, when I was a young child, last week, last month. I can remember those moments when people spoke encouragement into my life. And it built me up. It helped me. It spurred me to be better. What if we looked on the flip side and built each other up instead of tore each other down? What if we encourage others to something higher and better in their life? We change the world. We talk about the where you going, where you at, that mountainous journey. It's a mountainous journey to leave the world's way of how they approach words and go the journey of what God says. To be honest, it's, like I said, so night and day. You're probably going to have relationships that change because people only know how to talk bad about people. It's like, what do you talk about if you're not tearing someone down or if you're not sharing the latest tea? It's like, what do we even say to each other? Because that is such the norm. And I think if we take these four things and we put on our binoculars, it'll help us, not just as a church, but as a world, to change how people see Christians. It's Thanksgiving, right? And it's a season of thankfulness, and my family is crazy. And my wife and I, we were laughing because we went on a journey with my dad to the greatest store in the world called Harbor Freight. And we got uber cheap stuff, and it was in a very rough area, and it was quite entertaining because when we went there, my dad was kind of trolling all of us, and then we ended up going to having our Thanksgiving feast the day before, and everyone was supposed to say something they're thankful for, and there was like, hey, I'm thankful for this, but hey, you stink at this. Like, it's kind of our family culture. And so going into this message, it was very entertaining to me because we all kind of make fun of each other just because that's who we are. And my wife comes from a family that, like, if anyone says anything mean about anyone, they're like, go home and cry and get offended. So she's like, you guys are so mean to your mom. I'm like, it's just who we are, you know? But it made me think, no, I'm not. It's my birthday.
Hey, the truth hurts.
The truth hurts. Yes, it's harsh. I only have 2 weeks left. Yes, I can do what I want. Look, see, she's sad now.
Yeah, but you're always going to be mean to your mom.
Yeah, I'm not mean. I'm actually the nicest one out of my siblings. Am I not? Oh, good. Okay. Oh, wow, this is trolling. I'm of the world. I'm over here. But it made me think, let me get back on track. Because there are areas that I need to improve. Even though it's like joking and we're in jest, it also could hurt some of them. And so those are things that I was thinking about even with myself with this topic, that there are areas we all need to improve on. It's not just you, it's me, it's us, it's everyone. We all have areas of our life where we can grow in our words in radical ways. So be thinking about that. Let me pray for everyone, and we will get out of here.
We're gonna cut it up here in a second, but we're gonna sing Winston Happy Birthday. So you guys help me out. Will you help me out on that? Yeah. All right. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Winston. Happy birthday to you. Woo! All right, make sure to come tell this guy happy birthday and get a piece of cake before you guys leave. Love you guys. We'll be here for groups at 5:30. See you guys tonight.